Holy angels of God, pray for us.
We're turning back the clock, reliving the best moments from 2023.
We just saw the Pope. We can't stop crying. We just saw the Pope.
The moments that defined our faith.
Maybe this will help open people's eyes again and make people realize what they've been missing.
And brought us back to Christ. We're remembering everything that happened this year. Good times.
I do.
And bad. And how people of faith were called into action.
Somebody's in front of you, you feed them. Somebody's in front of you, you offer the clothing that you can give. That's the Catholic response.
This special edition of Currents News starts right now. Persichetti. 2023 is coming to a close, and we are taking a look back at some of the biggest Catholic headlines. Let's start with one years in the making that attracted millions. World Youth Day in Lisbon, Portugal. One of the biggest groups came from the Diocese of Brooklyn, and Currents News' Jessica Easthope was with them every step of the pilgrimage.
We just saw the Pope. We can't stop crying. We just saw the Pope. We broke his hand.
Stephanie Scotto, pilgrims from Our Lady of Sorrows in Corona, Queens, were moved to tears. Still in disbelief, the crowd of pilgrims from the Diocese of Brooklyn welcomed Pope Francis to Edward VII Park, along with hundreds of thousands of their peers.
I got the chills so much. I've heard so many people say, you feel like a presence of God when you see the Pope, but it actually was pretty crazy.
Julia Galante, a pilgrim from St. Patrick's Church, said listening to Pope Francis's message was surreal. Through a translator, he began his address by telling them they were all called to World Youth Day by Christ.
You are not here by accident. The Lord has called you. Not only in these days, but from the very beginning of your days. Indeed, He has called you by name.
A message Julia felt was being delivered to her personally.
A few months ago, I didn't even know I was going on this trip. So it's I don't know, I think that's crazy because I really wanted to go on this trip to feel closer to God. It's really made an impact.
Pope Francis also reminded young people in attendance the church is for everyone, no matter your background.
In the church, there is space for all. There's room for everyone in every language.
The Holy Father was inviting us to continue, so let that resound within us. So are you guys happy to be here?
Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
On the last day of the pilgrimage to Portugal, the Pope announced that he now has his eyes set on Seoul. South Korea will host the next World Youth Day in 2027. The Archbishop there said it's a great opportunity.
Maybe those who come to Korea will taste Korean culture, different taste, but they also will feel the unity in Christ, I think.
This will only be the second time Asia has hosted World Youth Day. The first was in the Philippines in 1995. The energy and the faith behind World Youth Day can be extremely moving. One pilgrim from the Diocese of Brooklyn even heard God's calling there. Patrick Ruby was a junior at Hunter College when he went to Lisbon. He had never been sure about pursuing a vocation, but standing with hundreds of thousands of young people in the presence of Pope Francis, he finally got the courage to follow his heart.
Months and months of saying no and turning my back, I was like, okay, let's say a little yes.
Since World Youth Day, Patrick left Hunter College and is currently at a seminary in Washington, D.C. We wish him luck. Some men who could give Patrick advice on his vocation is the latest class of priests ordained in the Diocese of Brooklyn. The 4 men each brought a unique set of skills to their new role as spiritual fathers. As Currents News' Jessica Easthope reports, from day one, they were excited to serve.
At some point in each of their lives, these 4 men never believed they'd be face down on the floor in prostration at their ordination. But that day did come, and deacons became priests.
I do with the help of God.
In front of hundreds at the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph Saturday.
It's really the day. Today is really the day.
The joyous day, filled with tradition, started in a sentimental way. Bishop Emeritus Nicholas DiMarzio hand-delivered each new priest a plant called the Crown of Thorns. It came with a message.
That's what the priesthood is, a little crown of thorns, just like Jesus had. Huh?
And letters. It was the first time Timothée Cherelus saw Father Timothée in writing.
I thank everybody, for the prayers. Without their prayers, there's no way I would have that word before my name. So this is the day to relax, to be happy.
But there was no relaxing for Father Ernesto Alonso. He was waiting for the right moment to let go of the past and embrace the future.
I feel a relief. This is the first day of the new part of my life as a priest.
But for Father Samuel Mibwabwe, the time he spent dealing with immigration delays will always be with him.
It forms me, so I pray more of that strength to continue with this journey.
One by one, the priests of the diocese laid their hands on each of the newly ordained heads, extending the sign of peace. Bishop Robert Brennan's one piece of advice: the priesthood can get busy, but always be holy.
We're always pulled upon in different directions and find ourselves easily distracted, wanting to be of service to everybody. But if we're not bringing Christ, then we're not really helping.
Father Eusebius Eze was already strategizing on how to tackle one of the greatest struggles of the global church: how to get young people excited about their faith.
For young people, Christ is who we need. So just listening to them and knowing their stories and seeing how we can, bring Christ to their situation.
They were blessed and gave blessings and are now shepherds of a community. Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Brooklyn Bishop Robert Brennan is dedicated to serving the Diocese of Immigrants. And as the city struggled with a migrant crisis, he was personally on hand to help. In October, Bishop Brennan handed out hot meals at St. Pius V Church. The Jamaica Queens Parish started the soup kitchen last year along with Catholic Charities. They feed dozens of people every week. Bishop Brennan says helping the migrants is part of our faith, and it's something the migrants appreciate.
Our situation is to say, okay, if somebody's in front of you, you feed them. If somebody's in front of you, you offer the clothing that you can give. That's the Catholic response.
On top of food and clothing, St. Pius is also offering help with government services. Another Queens food pantry, named after a possible saint who helped immigrants, has become a godsend for them today. The center, dedicated to Father Felix Varela, opened its doors at Our Lady of Sorrows Church in Corona in September. It feeds dozens of people every week at the soup kitchen and every month at the food pantry. This year marked the 200th anniversary of when Father Varela came to New York City and served the Irish immigrant community. Now his cause for canonization is gaining momentum. Currents News' Jessica Easthope spoke with the man leading the cause.
Here we have the Positio that was written in order to present to the Holy Father on the virtues of Felix Varela.
Retired Auxiliary Bishop Octavio Cisneros is the first to admit he didn't know much about Felix Varela as a young man growing up in Cuba. But now he's spearheading Varela's cause for sainthood in the Diocese of Brooklyn.
He was a voice that spoke for the church with gentleness, with kindness, but with forcefulness.
Varela was a Cuban politician, scientist, musician, journalist, and priest. He represented Cuba in Spanish Parliament, but was outspoken on issues like ending slavery and freeing the Spanish colonies. He was eventually sentenced to death and exiled. He left his affluent upbringing and education behind and came to New York City in the 1820s to minister to mostly Irish immigrants who were living in poverty.
When he comes to New York, he faces the immigrant population and he becomes the priest, the pastor, the shepherd to help the people of New York at that time. He truly is an example for all of us.
Y las consecuencias de los sucesos durante el año.
Bishop Cisneros and Father Christopher Henyu, the coordinator of the Irish Apostolate in the Diocese of Brooklyn, are raising awareness for Varela's cause for sainthood. He was declared a venerable by Pope Benedict XVI in 2012.
This is a great way to kind of raise that awareness. You can't make someone a saint if people aren't praying through his intercession.
As New York City accommodates a surge of migrants, Bishop Cisneros and Father Henu say Felix Varela's legacy is a poignant reminder of what the newly arrived need most.
We need someone who will fight for them, someone who will treat them with dignity and respect. Advocate for the poor and the needy is a great lesson learned.
This year marks 200 years since Varela arrived in New York City and the 170th anniversary of his death. A miracle that would confirm Varela's beatification is currently being investigated by the Congregation of Saints. Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
You could spot another dedication to an iconic city Catholic sailing across New York Harbor. The Dorothy Day Ferry made its inaugural ride in late April, marking the 90th anniversary of when she co-founded the Catholic Worker. Day started the movement to spread the message of Christ's love and charity in the Big Apple. Dorothy Day's canonization cause is currently being reviewed by the Vatican. In the meantime, her ferry safely moves 70,000 people between Staten Island and Manhattan every day. Stay right there. The look back at 2023 continues. The church speaks to its faithful. Thousands of parishes held synod sessions to find out what you want to see changed. One of the things to come out of those sessions, a trip around the Diocese of Brooklyn. We remember the Lenten pilgrimage. And traveling around the country, a flame that's burned for 1,000 years in Jesus' birthplace. Welcome back to this Currents News special. In 2023, the church discussed what you wanted from it during the synod process. After thousands of listening sessions took place, faith leaders brought your insight to the Holy See for the month-long synod meeting in October. There, the Pope met with hundreds of delegates to discuss hot topics in the church, such as women deacons and LGBTQ+ inclusion. And the conversation doesn't end there. The synod will reconvene in October of 2024. But already we're seeing your suggestions from the synod being heard. In the Diocese of Brooklyn, the process gave flight to a Lenten pilgrimage. In the 40 days leading up to Easter, parishioners went to a different church each day across Brooklyn and Queens. Currents News' Jessica Easthope was there for the start of their journey on Ash Wednesday.
No need to book a flight or even pack a bag. But with this passport in hand, Catholics in the Diocese of Brooklyn have everything they need to embark on a journey of faith this Ash Wednesday. Stamp by stamp, the pilgrimage began. People at the Cathedral Basilica of St. James lined up, ready to take a passport and give of themselves.
Maybe this will help open people's eyes again and make people realize what they've been missing.
Laura Taylor has been a parishioner at St. James for more than 20 years, but this Ash Wednesday is unlike any other she's experienced. She arrived early to make sure she got her hands on one of these, a 40-day Lenten pilgrimage passport. Inside, a blank space for each stamp under 42 designated parishes.
I'm hoping that with the pilgrimage that people will realize it's time to come home again and come back to the church.
Parishioners can attend Mass, Eucharistic adoration, or confession at any of the parishes. The idea of a pilgrimage passport started with the National Eucharistic Revival and feedback that came from synod listening sessions as a chance to experience all the diocese has to offer.
It's a cultural reflection, and our hope is by visiting all of these different parishes in the diocese, our church will grow in an understanding of who we are as God's holy people.
Bishop Robert Brennan says the pilgrimage is a challenge for parishioners, a way of giving something up for Lent, exchanging your time for prayer.
Together we walk with one another, but all of us together are walking with Jesus. And we're doing this in a very pointed way during the season of Lent as a reminder that Jesus is with us always.
After parishioners received their ashes and got their passports, some began to plan their own Lenten journeys.
My goal is to get to all 40. I think it's an awesome tool to evangelize and get people back into church.
I'm going to hit definitely the 2 churches in Queens Deanery 5, and let's hope I can get to as many as possible.
The pilgrimage ends on Wednesday, April 5th. Parishioners are encouraged to celebrate the Easter Triduum at their own parishes. Those who make it to 20 or more will receive a certificate from Bishop Brennan. In downtown Brooklyn, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Catholics also got closer to Christ in 2023 thanks to the National Eucharistic Revival happening right now. The initiative, started by the U.S. bishops, is meant to remind people of Christ's real presence in the Eucharist. And Diocese of Brooklyn parishioners dove headfirst into the campaign, taking part in processions, adorations, holy hours, and more. Brooklyn was supposed to hold its own diocese-wide event for the revival, but it was postponed because of weather and is now expected to happen sometime in the spring. The event's main musical act, the Diocese of Brooklyn's choir, will keep practicing until then. Currents News' Katie Vasquez gives us a preview.
This is the soundtrack of the Diocese of Brooklyn. From the installation of a bishop to the welcoming of a pope, they are the Diocese of Brooklyn's main choir, and they provide the music at every major event.
Benedict, John Paul, Francis, in Manhattan, all of them.
The group is made up of 40 singers, their voices hailing from all over Brooklyn and Queens. A fact Director of Music Liturgy, Stephen Vaughn, says is actually unique.
Normally it's the cathedral choir that sings at diocesan events, but we have a separate one where members come from all over the diocese.
But picking the right voices to hit the right notes is actually a selective process.
If you can't read music, you have to at least be able to have a good ear, and we want people who have good voices, obviously. You know, it's not just anybody can come sing with us. You have to be committed, and you have to be able to make music with the others.
Once a week, the singers come to St. Kevin's Church in Flushing to hone their craft.
The people here really enjoy singing. So it's always nice to hear a choir that believes in what they're singing and does it with soul.
They're preparing for their next big performance. The choir will sing at the Diocesan Eucharistic Revival event at Maimonides Park. The group says praising the Lord through song is the best part of the job.
Giving of yourself, you're talking to God, and the words, they sort of flow from you.
And it lifts you up and fills you up with all the beauty that the church has to offer you.
And they encourage everyone coming to the Coney Island Stadium to do the same. In Flushing, Katie Vasquez, Currents News.
To stay up to date on when that new Diocesan Eucharistic Revival event will take place, just go to dioceseofbrooklyn.org. Still to come on this special edition of Currents News, Christians living in Jesus' birthplace are not celebrating Christmas. They're standing in solidarity with Gaza. And a piece of Christ's hometown came to New York City. The Peace Lights message is needed now more than ever. Welcome back to this Currents News special looking at the stories that shaped 2023. One that happened later in the year but has left an impact on the world is the war between Israel and Hamas. New York's Cardinal Timothy Dolan and Brooklyn's Bishop Robert Brennan met with survivors of the attack that prompted the terror in the Holy Land. The Commission of Religious Leaders held the meeting in early December and heard the survivors' story. On October 7th, the grandmother and her two 15-year-old granddaughters hid in a safe room for more than 30 hours while terrorists tried to get inside. The grandmother's home was ultimately destroyed, leaving the family displaced. At the end of the meeting, the faith leaders laid their hands on the survivors, thanking God for protecting the women during the attack. The war has made for a bleak holiday season for every faith in the Holy Land, and Christians there have decided to cancel Christmas. Government and church leaders in the place where Christ was born are only sticking to religious celebrations, all in solidarity with those suffering in Gaza. In this Currents News exclusive, Katie Vasquez reports on how this decision is affecting holiday spirits on the ground in Bethlehem.
The place of Christ's birth, quiet for Christmas. No trees, lights, or decorations gracing the streets of Bethlehem. Instead, Christmas in the Holy Land is looking different this year.
There will not be any Christmas tree lighting, no toys, nothing, but we will only focus on praying.
The Christmas festivities have been canceled. City and church leaders calling off their usual preparations to show solidarity for those suffering in Gaza.
This time is so different. Parents are ashamed to buy gifts, toys for their children, where there are lots of families cannot provide the basic needs.
Since the war between Israel and Hamas started on October 7th, Gaza officials say the death toll has risen to more than 15,000. That includes more than 6,000 children and 4,000 women.
We are witnessing killing the kids and women and elderly people, so we cannot celebrate among all these situations.
The war and the canceling of the usual festivities taking its toll on the holiday spirits and Bethlehem's economy.
The tourism industry was recovering in a very rapid way, in a very positive way after the pandemic. Now we can say that tourism is zero. Maybe during the war we had only 2 groups.
Gift shops like this one owned by Ronnie Tabash are open, but no customers are coming.
In solito adesso è il più alto periodo per il lavoro e adesso veramente noi veniamo qua, apriamo non è per il lavoro, perché non c'è niente del lavoro.
But Christmas in Bethlehem is now returning to its roots. While most festivities are canceled, all liturgical celebrations will continue, bringing the city of Christ's birth back to the true reason for the season.
To have peace in the land of the peace, because Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace, born here in Bethlehem, and always we are looking to have the real peace in our land.
Concentrate on the prayer, concentrate on the meaning of Christmas more than concentrating of showing Christmas.
And hopefully next Christmas can shine brighter than this one. Katie Vasquez, Currents News.
But there is a spark of hope here in the United States thanks to the Peace Light from Bethlehem. The flame that started burning in the actual spot where Jesus was born arrived at JFK on the first Sunday of Advent. Scouts and volunteers anxiously waited for it. Every year, they pick up their own torches, carrying the message of peace, harmony, and unity to churches all around the nation. The Peace Light has been burning at the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem for more than 1,000 years, but this year it carried some additional weight as the Scouts prayed for peace in Gaza. That light made its way across the country. For some, it was a short trip, staying within the tri-state area. Others went all the way to the West Coast. Overall, more than 40 destinations are keeping the Peace Light going through the Christmas season. And that is this Currents News special. I'm Christine Persichetti. On behalf of the Currents News team and the Tablet newspaper, we want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And before we go, a quick look at the team that has been putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.